You are in. Where's Huddle with me, Bram, with me, per usual, and master, all things video and sound, Maxime.
How's it going?
My boy and producer, MT.
What's up, Dev Nation?
Gentlemen, so fired up to announce they're rejoining us after way too long. A high-profile college and NBA guru, the best draft insider who has spent season after season developing more background, relationships, and experience than anyone, anywhere within the sports media landscape. An athlete who's run more marathons and taken more hikes than all of the rest of our guests combined. A basketball junkie who knows more about your favorite player's path to the pros than your favorite player does. A woman who occasionally walks her dog with an elderly Israeli man, and a reporter who travels around the world to watch basketball, Miss Krysten Peek. What's going on, KP?
Woo! Hi, guys. Happy to be here. Gary is too.
We're happy to have you here, specifically in country. And so, look, I pulled a random back and forth I had via text with KP. So she was in the Bay. She attended Steph's camp here. And so I reached out and like, hey, I'm maybe a week late. How did the camp go? Didn't get a response. I was pissy about it. Pressed her again. Here's KP's response. Quote, "You caught me at a good time. I'm currently in Split, Croatia, and it's midnight, but I'm completely jet lagged. So I'm rewatching high school games of AJ DeBonsa and Darren Peterson." So, I mean,
Correct.
Just randomly in fucking Croatia watching high school highlight. I mean, I'm very impressed, Gabriel.
Well, can I tell you? So I go on this sailing trip, and we sailed from Split, Croatia to Dubrovnik, and it was 8 days long. And so you're with the same 8 people the entire time,
Ooh.
like strangers. And so I start like, I'm like talking about myself, it's like, oh yeah. I ran a marathon on every continent. Yeah. Antarctica included. And then I went to the North Pole. Oh yeah. I was on David Letterman for Stupid Human Tricks. Blah, blah, blah. Oh yeah. Oh, you're a Mavericks fan? Mark Cuban's a friend of mine. So then the next morning, one of the lady, they were from Virginia, and there was a husband-wife couple, and she wakes up and she goes, so I need to tell you, my husband last night, he came to bed and he goes, I think she's a pathological liar. There's no way any of this, all of it is true. And so she's telling me this, and I was like, oh my gosh, I totally know where you would think that. I have all the receipts. Like, we can talk about, I can show you everything.
I don't mind telling you. I mean, obviously he wasn't on that boat. I've never met those two people. I'd be willing to bet a significant amount of money. The husband believed everything you said, and it was the wife who was like, she's full of shit. That's a total lie.
I ended up having to do my Stupid Human Trick that I did 20 years ago on Letterman. I got a empty soda can, and I ended up doing the trick on the boat because they didn't believe me. And so I had to redo the trick that I did on Letterman.
Did you make eye contact with the lady with double birds up? Like, fuck you. You may have seen this. Also, I don't know if anybody has had a sentence that I could not associate with more with you. Like, I was on a fucking 8-day trip in Croatia talking about my David Letterman appearance. Like, not one of those things I have had any experience with at all. And I also don't mind telling you that traveling with strangers for 8 days sounds like a fucking nightmare.
It was amazing.
Oh my God.
It was amazing. And no, you are not alone. Everybody, anytime I go on these trips, people were like, are you out of your mind? Like, you don't know anybody. And I'm like, no, I'm just going.
Of the two, I bet you Marcus is with me, wouldn't like it. And I bet you Maxine would be like, I'm going to make a new friend. And like the whole thing. And I would be like the asshole. People would know me as like, oh, he doesn't really want to meet anybody. And they would be right.
They would be right.
Yes. It was great though. But I'm happy to be back. And Steph camp was great. And I'm ready for the season.
Did you FaceTime Mark Cuban before you started your trick just to have him on there?
Well, no, but so it's so funny you ask that question because, I did call Mark prior to the draft before they drafted Cooper. And I tried to FaceTime Mark with Cooper after the draft lottery. And Cooper was like, I was like, hey, Mark Cuban? And he's like, yeah. And I said, oh, okay, well, he's really excited. Do you want to FaceTime him? And he's like, KP, you don't know Mark Cuban. So we FaceTime him, and then he didn't answer. So I sent a video to Mark of like Cooper. I was like, Mark, pick up your phone. Look who I'm here with. And Cooper's just like, hi, Mark, and then like Mark called me, before the draft. He's like, please let him know we're not trading the pick. We're so excited. Cooper Flag is coming, and at the time I had a friend of mine staying with me, and I was on speakerphone, and then I hang up and all I hear is, oh my God, was that Mark Cuban?
Here's how I envision this playing out for me. I imagine like being on that sailing cruise. I don't want to talk to anybody. Somebody talks to me like, look, just give it a chance. We're at like some dinner where you've got to go around the table. Like, tell us something about yourself. I'm the person after you, and you're like, oh, here's something fun. I was with Cooper Flag and we both called fucking Mark Cuban together. I would just leave the table. Like, fuck this. Like, I'm not going second. What am I going to say? Like, oh, I'm a canned attorney in San Francisco. Like, there would just be nothing I would have.
What's crazy is like all of us, they all started like following me on social media or whatever. And there were 2 Australian guys, and they followed me. And then I met one of their girlfriends over FaceTime or whatever. And she's coming to Vegas and she's going to stay with me, whatever. And I said to them, I was like, okay, you guys need to understand, like when we leave Croatia, all I post ever is basketball content and Gary. That's it. My dog. That's it. And sure enough, one of the Aussies, he like reached out to me. He's like, oi, KP, you're not wrong. The basketball, that's all you post. And I was like, yeah, I know. I told you. So.
You may have noticed me cross out the intro because we already hit peak content. Last time you gave us an Israeli voice, I believe. And this time,
I know.
Here we are. We've already gotten everything I wanted out of this episode, which is weird because it is a loaded episode. We've got an NBA announcement from the FBI, no less, to go through. But we also has a lot of Warriors news and a lot of stuff about the young future of the NBA. So let's jump in. Let's start with the usual suspect, our glass half full. KP, you'll recognize this. We look back at recent Warriors hoop, give something you like, something you don't. We are taping this immediately before game 2. So we'll focus only on game 1 and cover that second game in a podcast perhaps tomorrow. I've said a lot, so I'll pass it to you boys. Start with something you like or don't about game 1.
I like that the Lakers looked more vulnerable than I was giving them credit for. I thought they'd be a top 5 team in the West. Granted, it was without LeBron, and we'll see how he comes back for the season. He's still a pretty good player, but if they don't get LeBron back in a meaningful way, that team scares me a lot less than I was anticipating. So even more confident that we don't have to worry about the play-in game the way we're playing and the way that the Lakers looked, at least in game 1.
They looked incredibly vulnerable. They looked more vulnerable than Luka did when he was with Dallas. There's just not other secondary pieces. I mean, he looked unstoppable, fair to say, and looked like he was in shape and all those other things, and petulant and whiny and all the shit that bothers me. But even after an unstoppable performance for him, we still looked like we outclassed him. Which was great to see. I'll add to that. You know what I enjoyed watching? Jimmy Buckets calmly closing out the game. There was a period of time, the Warriors were up like 15, and then they scored 7 uninterrupted. And it included a bad turnover from Steph and kind of a quick 3-ball, all the shit that you see as a Warrior fan that I love watching this team, but there's predictable shortfalls that they have towards the end of the game. And having an adult come on the floor and basically like, nope, not on my watch. I'm going to get layups. I'm going to get free throws. I'm not going to turn the ball over. I mean, we saw that calming influence last year, but it was just great. It's just great to have it back in my life. And I'll give you another 2 words that I really liked. Will Richard. He feels like a piece, calm, defensive-minded, fit in immediately. Krysten, tell us about him. For Warrior fans who don't know anything about him, where did he come from? What do we have here?
I mean, he comes from a winning program. He won a championship with Florida. Everybody wants to talk about Walter Clayton Jr. and what he did, and like rightfully so, he played his way into a first-round pick. But Will Richard, like this is a kid. He comes from Woodward Academy in Florida. I think he first was committed to Belmont before transferring to Florida, but he was a 4-star recruit. So it's someone that I've been watching, for a long time. But when you talk about like a second-round steal, he is looking to be that. Like, it is unbelievable. He's a plug and play guy in the secondary unit right away. And like you said, defensively, I mean, it just doesn't get any better than what he's doing in his first game as an NBA player.
Let's go.
I have a question. Throughout the tournament, they were saying his name, Will Richard, but now all I hear is Will Richard. Which one is it?
They were saying Will Richard? They were?
Yeah, they definitely were.
Oh.
I was like, oh, this dude is a little French. He's gonna come in and give us a little.
I've only known him as Will Richard.
Also, let the record reflect. We brought up that I was going to ask about Will Richard, like before we hit record. This motherfucker didn't say shit about Richard then. It turns out I was right anyways, but he let me jump right into this without being like, ooh, you may want to double check how you say his last name. I did not.
Because you also said, let's save this for the pod. This is gold.
I didn't say save my bullshit, terrible pronunciation things for the pod. Are there other things that you're going to fucking sneak attack me with here? I'm worried.
Everybody's used to that. Just pronounce Giannis's last name. Go for it.
Richard.
Nailed it.
Maxime, what'd you see?
I saw, first of all, not the fucking first quarter and a half, which pissed me right the fuck off. I think it's, I knew that this was going to happen with this streaming proliferation, but I didn't think it was going to happen quite so soon and quite so bungled. But whatever, I'll leave that aside. I'll give you something I like and something I don't. What I liked, Kuminga. Overall, again, I didn't get to see the first quarter and a half, but when we joined in partway through, what I saw was a guy who missed a couple of shots, but still brought it on the defensive end. As in, he was very confident in himself in spite of, not having a great start to the game. And then started really hitting some shots, felt like he was in the flow of the offense. But more importantly than hitting shots, he was passing the ball in ways that I found creative, as if he was paying attention to floor spacing, as if he was listening to people that were saying part of your role, in addition to being a downhill guy, is also to be able to exist within the flow of the offense. Really, really excited. Regardless of whether or not he's on the team past the trade deadline or not, it's a really good sign for our squad. Something I don't like, I think it will change, but I did not find Al Horford to be quite as plug and play as Jimmy Butler was when he joined our team. There was some moments where he was literally in Steph's way as Steph was moving around. It's fine. I know he's a very smart player. We've seen him with Boston be extremely effective, so I'm not overly concerned, but it's clear that he's going to need a little bit more time to ramp up, and I'm willing to give him that grace, but kind of a rough showing for game one.
We'll follow up, but backwards. Yeah, I'll start with Horford. The thing I didn't like, he looked out of sorts, but I'm not worried about that. Smart guy, huge IQ. I mean, he'll fit in. What I didn't like was his minute total. We looked at when he first joined, looking back the last 3-4 years, Horford has played 26, 27 minutes a night. He takes back-to-backs off. I mean, he protects his body, but when he's playing, he's playing. That first game, he only played 20 minutes, and that's game one. And so I would like to see it a little bit higher. Thing I did, so I'll agree with you on JK, and the stats that stuck out to me wasn't the timely threes in the third or his 17 points. It was the 9 rebounds and 6 assists. And kind of put differently, it was never his ability here. It's how he's using his ability here. And I mean, I think the two barometers they're really looking at this year are those, is that extra pass and his willingness to rebound. And, so far, 1 for 1. And then finally, maybe most importantly, you said you'd leave it aside. I sure as fuck won't. I couldn't stand NBC's coverage. So on the off chance, Krysten, I'm not sure if you watched the couple of openers, but the Warriors were the second game on opening night. And the first went to double overtime. It was OKC Houston. And they started the Warrior game on time. And so if you were watching NBC's normal coverage and you don't pay for Peacock, which I don't, you couldn't watch any of the first fucking quarter. And to add insult to injury, when that first game ended, they didn't immediately switch over. They showed some of the highlights and a couple of the interviews. And I took it so hard, to no one's surprise, that I was like, I went through the whole range of temper tantrums. I was like catatonic. I was screaming. I was furious. I tweeted a bunch of times, to the point where my wife said, "Why do you watch basketball?" That's literally a question to me. And it's like, game one, you've been looking forward to this. And my response was something along the lines of, apparently I can't watch basketball, which she didn't understand because we were watching the fucking first game and that didn't make any sense to anybody. So I'll just leave it here. When I pointed out online, look, they needed to have a backup plan. Everybody kicked back. Peacock was their backup plan. I pay for basic cable. I don't watch basic cable at all. I mean, I don't. The only thing I watch live on basic cable is sports. It's the only reason I fucking pay for it. The idea that I paid for it and couldn't watch it on basic cable is total bullshit, but I digress because we have a lot of other things to cover, including the last thing I didn't like, Austin Reeves' headband. There's something about that guy's face that has always bothered me, and it is accentuated by that large headband he's wearing. So, I don't know if you guys have any analytic takes about the headband size, but it bothered me, and it bothered me a lot.
Is that how you pronounce his last name? Reeves?
That's exactly right. Reeves. You bastard. To our next segment, the golden questions. And so, Krysten, it feels like we are right either in the middle of or right at the outset of a passing of the torch. You look around the NBA and there are young players either already dominating or seemingly right on the precipice of dominating. I mean, there is a change in generations. And before this FBI announcement, I put together a whole series of questions about the young players. I've now had to smash them in to really tight confines here because we've got the FBI stuff. So let's jump in. Here's my first, Reed Sheppard, right? So last year, Reed Sheppard was frosting. Houston didn't need him. He didn't really play at all. And it was viewed as kind of this addition. At some point, they're going to work him in. And then over the offseason, Van Vliet gets hurt. And they add KD. And now it is a really high-profile, possible championship team that has a hole at point guard. They moved Amen Thompson over there, and we'll see what that experiment does. But they're going to need a lot out of Reed Sheppard, and he didn't get anything last year. He might as well be a rookie. And so I wanted to ask someone I know who knows about Reed Sheppard. So just mentality-wise, this guy's personality. Is he the type of person who views this as an incredible opportunity, who loves it? Like, look, I got this tension, let's go. Or is this a lot? Because it'd be a lot for a lot of people to suddenly be thrust into a decision-making position on a championship team with zero experience.
Reed Sheppard is one of those players. I mean, you have to remember Reed Sheppard came into Kentucky playing for Coach Calipari when he was still there, and he was on the #1 recruiting class. And he was at the time like the 4th best on that roster. And what Reed said to me, he said, I will literally do anything that Coach Calipari tells me to do. I will, if that's getting water for the players during timeout, if it's hitting game-winning threes, like that's what I'll do. And so the expectations for Reed his freshman year were very, very low. Then he just exploded and he became the guy, the #1 option, #2 option on that offense for that Kentucky team. And then you see him go top 5 in a very not so loaded draft class, yeah. But so and the expectations are still there. So in my mind for Reed, is he willing? Is he going to step up, and is he going to be the one that makes plays, makes shots? Absolutely. That's who he is. That's who his mindset is. That's just what he's about. He is an unbelievable high character kid who is a very, very competitive player.
There you go. Yeah, he got thrown into when I wasn't throwing a temper tantrum, I was actually watching a little bit of Houston OKC, and what a tough first match. I mean, the NBA is relentless. If they think that they can come after you, they will come after you on every single play over and over again. And to his credit, I mean, he's getting picked on by the MVP. I mean, that's a very good team. And he didn't get discouraged at any point, despite an off shooting night and being kind of the focal point of their offensive attack. MT, what's your personality? If you are Reed Sheppard, and you're suddenly thrust immediately into the spotlight, this team that features KD, who's looking to kind of resurrect his reputation, and Ime Udoka, who's a fucking savage, there's real expectations. Would you like it, or would you prefer a little bit of runway? Get your feet underneath you before there's stakes.
Definitely runway. I'm going back to how I approached Kentucky that first year, and I'll do anything to make this team successful. We have talent on the squad. If I need to go get KD some water and some Gatorade, let me know. And hopefully that translates into taking the pressure off of myself to perform, and letting those guys shoulder, the better defenders, and I'll just sneak around and average 13 per game and hold my starting role.
It's also an incredible way to couch expectations. Like Ime comes and meets with you. It's like, all right, we're really going to need you. And you open up with, I will do anything. And then the first thing is like get water. Or, they need snacks. I'll get snacks and meat, anything, Ime. Like, you tell me. And maybe makes a little notation like, ooh, keep him on the bench. He's not super ready for this. All right, next. VJ, Edgecombe, Cooper Flagg, Dylan Harper all make their debut last night. Varying levels of success and, on different roles, that kind of thing. Edgecombe, 34-7, the best debut as a 76er, I think, in the last 20 years. Dylan Harper started off cold. I was watching that game too, ended up with 15-4. And what impressed me is that he couldn't hit a shot in the first quarter, including 2 missed free throws. The kind of thing like you're anxious to get on the board as an NBA guy, but stuck with it and ended up putting up 11 in the second half, which is not an easy thing if you're having a cold night as a new player. And then Cooper couldn't hit a shot, but still 10 rebounds, 10 points. And the thing that impressed me, he was playing point guard. And he was waving people into position in his first game. There was a play where he waved Anthony Davis off and wanting a one-on-one, I guess, which just shows his confidence. But if you had to bet something significant to you, KP, which one of these three has we fast forward in 20 years, which one of them is going to have the most impressive NBA career?
That is tough because these are 3 of my favorite players. And you talk about the Mavericks game, the Mavericks Spurs game last night. Yes, it was unbelievable what Victor Wembanyama did and the performance he did. But I caught myself looking courtside and I was like, oh my gosh, there's Kelly and Ralph Flagg. Oh my gosh, they're sitting with Marcus Spears and Marcus Spears Jr. Oh, so I texted Kelly and I was like, my 4 favorite people at Cooper's debut sitting courtside. I was like, please tell Marcus and his son I said hello. And she's just like, only you would text me this.
I saw 4 of those people and texted my boy Will Richard and said, I know all 4 of those guys. We're pretty close.
Yeah, but okay. Who will have the best career in 20 years? I don't like, no, I'll call it a 3-way tie. All 3 of them. Fantastic. But what VJ did was very, very impressive. And then I love the celebration that he got post game with everybody coming over, dumping water on him, saying that's how you feel, 7-7. Tyrese Maxey and, Joel Embiid really giving him his flowers. So I'm happy for all 3 of them.
That game featured what I think is proof of human evolution from Victor Wembanyama. It was
insane.
There just kept being more and more plays, more and more evidence that this kid's hand-eye coordination, despite being what looks to be 7'7", he's listed at 7'4", and that took some convincing. I think they listed him lower last year. They've kicked it up a little bit this year. He is definitely taller than that, and I do think 7'7". And what he is doing, if you had asked me in the late 90s, is it possible that at some point a 6'2" guard is going to be setting a screen for a 7'7" center so that 7'7" center can take a step back 4-point play? I would have said no. What are you talking about? And so just unbelievable, but I want to quantify it. All right, I got some over-unders. Yeah, if you had to bet something significant about his future, at some point in his career, will he do these things? All right, here's my first. Over under 10, the highest block total in a single game for Victor Wembanyama. What do you think? In his career, will at any point he have 10 or more blocks in a game? Because I take the over.
Yes, over.
Yeah.
Yeah, easy over. He'll have a quadruple double.
Remember when we first talked about Victor Wembanyama? Remember on this pod, and you're like, oh, I don't know how to say his name, whatever.
Did he have to lead that way? I think I said some positive things too. I'm just catching straight.
That tracks. That pronunciation gets Brian every time.
How do you spell it? It's Marquise. I don't know. Whatever. Don't worry about that. Yes, I do remember that. And here, let's use Marcus to venture into this next one because I got it here. Quadruple doubles over his career, 2.5 over under.
Career.
Oh.
Yeah. Do you agree with that? Yeah. Krysten, you said the same thing? Yeah. I'm sure it's happened. I cannot name one person who has a quadruple double that I'm aware of. You know, I know it's
David
out there.
Robinson.
There you go. I do
Yes.
not remember it.
Nate Thurmond, Alvin Robinson, Hakeem Olajuwon, and David Robinson.
Okay, there you go. So what, 5?
He'll be the 5th.
And we
Will
all
be.
agree. All right. Highest point total over his career. Highest point total, 65 over under. Because the 40 he put up last night was effortless.
Easy.
Effortless. I think I take the over.
I don't know if he's the type of player that like goes and hunts points the way Kobe did, the way Giannis does, the way Shea does. Like, I don't know if he's that player. So I don't know if he gets a 65, like then great. But I don't think it's something that he will hunt.
Yeah. Like he makes it the goal of that game.
Yeah.
To like, all right, I'm going up and above.
Yeah. I think under. I don't think he ever gets that. But just because he doesn't shoot enough threes in volume. Like he's starting to go more into the paint. And I think you need more threes than he's willing to shoot in a game to get to that mark in the minutes that he would play.
There was a moment supposedly that SGA was called out for having not put up a 50 spot last year, that he was dominating. He was averaging, well above 30, and that somebody brought it to his attention that there hadn't yet been a 50-point game. And then he rattled off like 2 or 3 in a couple of weeks. That's what I think the context will be for Victor Wembanyama. Because I think you're right. I agree with you, KP. He's not going to enter into a game without outside influence, be like, I'm going to destroy everybody today. But if somebody points out to him at some point, like, hey, here's a thing you haven't done yet. You haven't hit this number. And he, it wasn't his dunks or even his threes that impressed me last night. There was a couple of times he went hard left and then banked in a shot effortlessly. And he will get that anytime he wants it. Nobody is ever going to be able to guard that. And it looks so easy. I mean, I think he's going to develop a few moves like the sky hook, not that move specifically, but something that works for Victor that is going to be unstoppable.
I can't believe how small he made Derek Lively and PJ Washington look.
Mm-hmm.
It's crazy.
Yeah, I think even though they were just dunks, the first one in particular, the aggression that he slammed it through with, I was like, oh, like skinny Victor is he's still skinny, but there was some intention behind it. And then we did the other dunk where he like literally dunked it chest level.
The thing with Victor that I always love and appreciate, and what I've, the fact that I've known him since, he was 15 or whatever, and been able to follow his career before hitting the NBA, is like the way he is wired. His mind is crazy. And he's so competitive. So imagine last year when he had to be sidelined with a blood clots, and he's like, oh my gosh, are you telling me there's a chance that I may never be able to play the game that I love and that I've dedicated my life to ever again? Like that really ate at him. So then you saw him in this offseason, and the moves he made off the court, where he, went to study with monks over in China. Where was it that he was at? And just getting in the gym and the lab with other
Hakeem and Kevin Garnett.
Yes.
And and
Jamal Crawford on the point guard position. Like he's so intentional about the trajectory of his career and his development. And so, like that first dunk, it was kind of like, yeah, motherfuckers, I'm back. Like that was really what I read into it,
And how he celebrated too. It was much more demonstrative. It was a more aggressive Victor Wembanyama, which I think people should be afraid. I mean, health withstanding. I mean, like all that stuff that you got to stay. His future feels.
He is going to take over the league.
It feels like the Warriors. I mean, to make this Warriors centric, the window is now. Before this guy really understands the power that he's wielding, and before De'Aaron Fox, before the team kind of comes together, because the other name I mentioned already, Dylan Harper, he plays with him. That team
and Steph Castle.
Yeah, that
rookie
is
of the year, last year's rookie of the year.
Yep, absolutely. That is a dangerous team, and I really feel like we've got to move before they realize how dangerous they are.
I think it's too late. I mean, it's not impossible that he wins MVP and Defensive Player of the Year this year. Like what I saw last night. I don't think is an overreaction. I have been with Steph. There is some superhero tendencies, especially earlier on, 2015, 2016. But this is the first time since then I was just giggling. It felt like watching a superhero movie, right? It's like when you meet, you see a point guard on the court, right? Because all of these guys are incredible athletes. They're the best of the best. Like at Cal, Jerome Randall, right? He was only 5'10". He looked like he was like 4 feet tall. And then I saw him in the cafeteria and he was like, oh, that dude's pretty tall. It's that same sort of thing, right? Like Victor Wembanyama breaks the game amongst a bunch of super athletes already, right? It's like, and then KP, you pointed out, right? It's like he was already Superman, and sorry to mix DC and Marvel, but then like he's also Iron Man, is that he's also brilliant in addition to being this athletic Marvel and like the superhuman. It's like, I think he's already broken the game in the way that Shaq did and the way that Steph did. Like, they're going to have to change the game if they want it to be real because he's one of one. He's a superhero playing with a bunch of humans when all of the humans are already superheroes. It's very mind-blowing.
Fuck superhero. As a Warriors fan, it was like the origin story for a super villain. I don't want to watch this. The thing they were talking about playfully before the game started was that Derek Lively had grown 2 inches in the offseason. Which is wild. He's in the NBA and like he shouldn't be growing anymore. And what an advantage and how happy, Dallas must have been. And then they show it and he's standing next to Victor Wembanyama. He's like, that dude grew 2 fucking inches. He looks like he's like 4'1". Like, what are you talking about? And Victor could have swallowed him at almost any moment. I'm impressed. Let me push it back to Warriors one last time. We have Krysten. You have been my Jonathan Kuminga counselor for years, from before the draft, after the draft, during these trying time, like all this. And the last time we spoke to you was pre-contract. And I hope I'm not violating any confidences to say when we were trading text messages, you playfully said, look, free JK. This situation is not fucking, this situation is not working. Well, he's not free, Krysten. He is now here, at least for this year, through January 15th, certainly. Do you think that him getting this contract, $48 million, 2 years, and total conjecture, we don't know. This is not reporting. It's just guessing. Do you think that this resets his relationship with the team? Like, is he in a better place now and everything's fine, or his frustrations are probably still there?
I hope so. But do I think this is going to cure everything? No.
Yeah.
Like whatever frustrations he's had the last 2, 3, 4 years, whatever that he's been on the team, they're still going to be there lingering.
Yeah.
And so this is just, it's so much like good faith for the Warriors to extend this and get him under contract. But are the frustrations still there? Absolutely.
But my kid, there's a topic she hates to do homework with. We don't have to go through what it is. And most of the time she just doesn't want to do it. She hates it, but she drags her feet, takes forever. We fight over doing it, all the 9 yards. But every now and again, we'll put a carrot at the end of the stick. Like, okay, if you get through this next 30 minutes of doing this topic, you'll get ice cream or TV, whatever it is that we're rewarding. And when we do that, she does the topic. She'll go through it and she tries hard. She doesn't fucking like it. She doesn't want to do it anymore. She hasn't changed her mentality. But for the reward, she'll do it. That's what this feels like with JK. He doesn't want to be the guy who has to make the extra pass. He doesn't want to be an athletic marvel who's limited to rebounding. He wants to be the main guy on a team. But that didn't happen, and it feels like they've given him the reward. And so like he's doing it. I've mentioned before with he's making the next pass. He is rebounding. I don't think that's where he wants to be long term. So I don't think it's a long term fix. But I do think they've found a way of like, look, for what you want, do this now, get through this segment now, and then you'll get, when you're out of here, you'll find something else. So it's not a long-term solution, but I think it might be a solution, if that makes any sense.
Well, yeah. And also, sorry, MT, but like, also the fact that like teams weren't coming out of the woodworks and offering for him probably put a lot of different things in perspective for his camp. And like, this was the best case scenario for him right now.
Yep.
Yeah. And I think he took a few ill-advised shots. I think first or second quarter, a few fadeaway jump shots. Previous years, Steve Kerr would have pulled him, and it would have.
It's a good call.
It would have reinforced what frustrates JK is that, like, just because I mess up, like, don't pull me. Like, I need to work my way through it. Steve Kerr didn't pull him, and he finishes with 17, 9, and 6 and has a great game. I think because of the contract, it's tougher for Steve Kerr to pull a $24 million contract off the floor than a $7 million contract or 8, whatever it was. And with that comes JK feeling like, okay, I can play a little looser, a little freer. He raised his hand every time he took those bad fadeaway shots, stopped doing them, was hitting 3-pointers. And Maxime, I know you missed that first quarter, but he had a few threes in the first quarter and a half that you were like, oh, wait, is this what he's bringing to the table? So I think overall the willingness of Steve Kerr not to pull him and to stick with him is going to help change the narrative. And I think winning cures all. And if he has that longer leash, I could see him re-signing.
One game in, based only one game in, 3 years from now, is JK in Golden State or somewhere else, MT? Or anybody else? Because I believe Margaret, yeah.
No.
You think for sure KP is
3 years from now? No.
Yeah. Maxime?
No, and I would even go so far as to put money down on that being 1 year from now.
Yeah, or January 16th. I guess we'll see. We've spent a lot of time.
I think he's on the team 3 years from now.
Yeah, let's go. Hey,
I hope so.
Write it down, Matty Stats.
Yeah, no, we all do. I mean, that's best case scenario. That's exactly know that I'd love to see that. But we'll see. And we spent a lot of time on JK. Go ahead, KP.
No, I'm watching MT right now talk to his kid. So sweet.
Talk to his daughter. It's Amelia's first appearance on the Huddle. I'll tell you what, we'll use this as a quick break from our sponsor. Huddle listeners, fast breaks, buzzer beaters, and block parties are back, and Underdog is the best place to get in on all the action. Playing on Underdog is easy. Just pick whether your favorite players will go higher or lower on stats like points, rebounds, steals, and more. And if you get your picks right, you can win up to 5,000 times your cash. Look, I love this app. It takes something I already love, watching the Warriors, and not only makes it more fun, it gives me a chance to turn my Golden State knowledge into cold, hard cash. I'll give you an example. So we're recording this right before the matchup against Denver. Been looking forward to the matchup forever, but now I might actually have some personal stakes in it as well. They've got Jimmy Butler's his point total at 18.5 points. I think he'll go higher than that. In fact, I've bet that way. So I now have a way to make money while literally just sitting and watching the team that I love. Download the app today and use promo code WHP to score $100 in bonus funds or bonus entries when you play your first $5. That's promo code WHP, as in Warriors Huddle Podcast. Underdog, make picks, win money. Must be 18 plus or 19 plus in Alabama and Nebraska, 19 plus in Colorado for some games, and 21 plus in Arizona, Massachusetts, and Virginia, and present in a state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. See assets.underdogfantasy.com/web/plan get terms _DFAS_HTML for details. Offer is not valid in Maryland, Michigan, New Jersey, New York, Ohio, and Pennsylvania. And if you're concerned with your play, call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.ncpgambling.org. In New York, call the 24/7 Hope line. That's 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY. That's 467-369. All right, back to the show and back to the FBI's announcement. So this has "Don't Get Sued" written all over it, just fucking all over it. So instead of my description in any way, I'm going to read you some portions that I pulled online from a few different places. Here's our first. It's from CNN Sports. Quote, "A sprawling FBI probe into mafia-linked gambling and sports rigging schemes led to the arrest this morning of Miami Heat guard Terry Rozier and Portland Trail Blazers head coach Chauncey Billups, according to federal law enforcement officials. The NBA says both men have been placed on leave. The investigation involved two major operations. One centered on the use of insider information to place bets on various NBA games, and another revolving around underground poker games where quote-unquote high-tech cheating technology was used to steal millions from victims," U.S. Attorney Joseph Nocella Jr. said. So poker games and sports gambling, we're going to take each at a time. Let's start with the poker game. So here's another article I'm quoting from. This one is from USA Today, and they used Joe Nocella's, or Nocella rather's, press conference for most of this. So here's the description. Forgive me, it's long but entertaining. Quote, as early as 2019, the defendants, which by the way include 4 mafia families, getting back to the argument, used wireless cheating technology to run rigged poker games in cities including Manhattan, the Hamptons, Las Vegas, and Miami. The victims, known as Fish, were lured into the games with the chance to gamble with celebrities known as face cards, including Portland Trail Blazers coach Chauncey Billups and former NBA player Damon Jones, who are among more than 30 people indicted in separate but overlapping federal investigations. What the victims, the Fish, didn't know was that everybody else at the poker game, from the dealer to the players, including the face cards, was in on the scam. The defendants used, quote unquote, very sophisticated cheating technologies, including a rigged shuffling machine stolen from someone at gunpoint. Off-the-shelf shuffling machines were also secretly altered in order to read the cards in the deck, predict what player at the table had the best poker hand, and relay that information to an off-site operator. That was also reported by Joe. The on-site operator allegedly sent the information back to someone at the table, dubbed the quarterback, who secretly signaled other players in order to win the games. The defendants used other cheating technologies, such as poker chip tray analyzers, which is a poker chip tray that secretly reads cards using a hidden camera, special contact lens or eyeglasses that could read pre-marked cards, and an X-ray table that could read cards face down on the table. Victims were fleeced out of hundreds of thousands of dollars per game, including one who lost $1.8 million. So really, there's 4 mafia families organized to create a exceptionally rigged poker game with the help of what sounds like fucking Mission Impossible level technology. But they were worried that people, would feel suspicious about the game. And so the way they got around it is by hiring celebrities to sit in, and that just the action of having a celebrity there made the Fish feel better, and those celebrities included NBA players, including current coach Chauncey Billups, who I would imagine the days as a coach are numbered. So let me start this way. I don't know why, but I agree with the use of the face card. It would work on me. If I showed up at something and I had any concerns about it, like this feels shady, if there was a fucking celebrity there, it would make me trust it. But I can't tell you why. It's not like these, Chauncey Billups isn't known for, like truth and veracity and making sure he never lies. He's known for playing basketball. So my first question is that true for you guys? If a celebrity was there, would it make you feel like this is more legitimate? And if so, why? What is it about us that sees celebrities and thinks, oh, this must be fine as long as that person's involved?
Real quick, I just want to add, because Sham Sharana just tweeted this out, a statement from Chauncey Billups' attorney, Chris Haywood. And he said, anyone who knows Chauncey Billups knows he's a man of integrity, do not cheat and defraud others. To believe that Chauncey Billups did what the federal government is accusing him is to believe that he would risk his Hall of Fame legacy, his reputation, and his freedom. He would not jeopardize those things for anything, let alone a card game. Furthermore, Chauncey Billups has never and would never gamble on basketball games, provide insider information, or sacrifice the trust of his team and the league, and would not tarnish the game he has devoted his entire life to. Last bit, Chauncey Billups has never backed down. He does not plan to do so now. He will fight these allegations with the same tenacity that marked his 28-year career. We look forward to our day in court.
Here's what I have to say to that. Thank you. I mean, very important that we put the and allegations. Nothing's been proved. This is all allegations. I wasn't there. I will add that when the FBI read this out, you know what they did not include him in? The sports gambling stuff. They did not. That he is answering to a charge that has not been made is not the best look. They may have been a little aggressive.
Just don't say anything. Just don't say anything. Like, I don't understand.
If for no reason right now I said, "Hey, Krysten, I didn't steal your wallet," you'd be like, "What?" I mean, you'd you'd fucking check. Like anytime you're answering to a charge that has not been lobbied your way is a little dangerous. And I mean, to be fair to him, there's some allegations in the air involving his name. I don't do criminal law, but I'm willing to say I almost pulled the clip. When the FBI, when the Attorney General announced this, it was a 35-minute press conference. It's filled with details, and he ended it with unnecessarily cute shit. He said something along the lines of, your winning streak is over, and you can bet on that. corny, weird, and not the type of thing that a U.S. Attorney General like would add. And I'll say just personality wise, if this is my case, the level of certainty I would have to have, the amount of fucking evidence I would have to be sitting on before I added that little fuck you at the end would have to be pretty considerable. And so, I mean, somebody's wrong here. You know what I mean? Like, and someone's really demonstrably wrong. So good for that attorney. We'll see, man. He sounds like he has about as much credibility as Kuminga's fucking agent saying that they weren't going to take the qualifying offer. But I mean, who knows?
Yeah, you have to say that. They also call them the Toronto Rangers in that release too. So, you know, like take that with a grain of salt. But yeah, I wouldn't say anything either. To answer your question directly, like if I see a celebrity in that situation, it does lend credibility to it because it feels like celebrities have an inside track on like the things in life that you try to get into. Like they have a pass into the clubs that are reputable. But it would equally turn me off to the game because I would feel like my bank account doesn't match Chauncey Bill or the celebrity. So why am I here? You know, like I somehow stumbled into the high slots area of the casino. I need to get out to the regular portion. Yeah.
And without showing them that I can't afford it, you know, like I'd still want to impress them, but I would back out. Krysten, would this do that? Of us, you would be the person I would bet on who a celebrity wouldn't necessarily change your opinion. Am I wrong? Like if you saw someone in there, would they make you feel better about this must be legit?
Yes and no. I mean, I'm so indifferent to that. And if it was anybody in the basketball community, I'd just be like, oh, okay. Who do they know? Huh? All right, good to see you.
What you guys don't know is that on that fucking trip in Split, Croatia, KP was like, also, I like to gamble with Chauncey Billups. So the whole thing, it's pretty good. They call me a face card. It's weird.
And that couple was like, I do believe that part. Actually.
Yeah, that part for sure.
The couple's like, we don't believe anything else. But this we believe.
On the off chance that husband's listening, you know, like I there's no way. It was definitely the wife. I imagine him come in and he's like, can you believe that Krysten Peek? Like he's been in so many things. And the wife was like, fuck her. She's definitely lying. I can't wait to call her out tomorrow. And then she got a little nervous when it came up. Maxime, I'm going to change the question for you. Not just celebrities make a difference. So who knows whether or not this is true. We'll find out. Hearing this news as an NBA fan, do you care? You know, do you care that Chauncey Billups was involved if it happened in an illegal poker game?
No. I think would I care if it hit a little closer to home, if it was somebody on a team that I rooted for? Yeah, that would feel a little bit different. I mean, even the like crypto stuff with Steph, you know, and Sam Bankman-Fried started to kind of rub me the wrong way. The other thing is that this is off the court, right? It's NBA personalities, but it's not involving the NBA. Now, if we're having conversations about people, you know, rigging bets for player props or whatever, yeah, because that feels like it's really ruining the integrity of the game. And I mean, we are real close to more of those kinds of allegations coming out. You can be sure that if somebody could rig something with this much technical sophistication, when it's way easier to do it in the game that you're playing in, you don't have to have fancy poker tables and card readers and all that shit. You can just decide to pull yourself out of the game. You know that there's a lot going on there, and that has me pretty concerned.
Funny you said that. Let's go to the second set of allegations from the FBI involving sports gambling. This is back to a CNN article. Quote, what happened? Defendants named in this indictment are accused of exploiting insider information to bet on NBA games. U.S. Attorney Joe Nocella said the nature of this information included things like when players would be sitting out and when they would pull themselves out of a game due to injury, he said. How the scheme worked. The player information would be passed along to other members of the scheme who would wager money, documents say, mostly on individual player performances and statistics. Nocella said it involved the performance of players on several teams, including the Charlotte Hornets, the Portland Trailblazers, and the Los Angeles Lakers. Injury reports in one instance. The indictment details how Terry Rozier, allegedly faked an injury in 2023. He told another person involved that he was going to leave the game early, allowing members of the group to bet on the under of his statistics, as outlined in the indictment. In another example, Jones is accused of leaking information about LeBron James's injury to bettors, according to court documents. So here's all I'll add. The Netflix has a sports documentary series that's excellent, and they look at past sports conspiracies or stories that got a lot of attention, but they wait until it's been long enough where the people involved are comfortable talking about it. They had like a Lance Armstrong one, but now it's been so long where Lance is saying, yeah, fuck, I did it. And I lied about the steroids. One of the ones they did was about a point shaving scandal involving Headache Smith. He was then at Arizona State. I remember him. And when they had the documentary, they would show footage of him playing. And because we know what to look for, you could see him, short arming a rebound. You could tell that he was shaving points. What I think is brilliant about what they did here, I mean, reading between the lines or reading directly from the lines, is that Terry Rozier, when he was doing it, just pulled himself out of the game. He would take the under on something, then say, look, my foot hurts. You got to take me out. So there's no footage like that. I mean, I know there's some involving other players and there's some involving Terry Rozier, but this concept of I'm just going to leave the game because of subjective pain that's a dangerous, pretty successful way to hide this shit. And so here, I mean, this softball questions. Let me start here. How many NBA players do you think are doing this? Right? Because all of us now carry a bookie in our pockets. I mean, that's what these daily apps let you do. You don't have to call anybody. You just bust out your phone and make the bet. So, 10%, 20%, 2%, 90%. Like, what do you think? We'll never know. They're never going to like release a name, but just based on information that's available to you, what percentage of people do you think are doing this? NBA players. Adam Silver isn't joining us. You got to speak freely. You guys are okay.
I don't know. I hope it's only 2%, but I doubt it.
If the over under for me was in the 30s, I'd take the over. I don't think it's 30% of the names we all know. I don't think that. I think that like people who are starting in all-star games, I don't think they're doing that. But is there a second group of players who might be dipping into this? The back end of benches every now and again. I'd say, yeah, I would go under or over rather.
But they would have to be able to get enough playing time to influence that game. Like, do they get in the game at critical points to shave enough points to hit the over or under?
Well, but the goal for them it's not the player, or I'm sorry, it's not the team totals. It's players. It's like, so the reason why Rozier got caught, supposedly, or one of the things that came up was he was just doing his own player props, right? It had nothing to do with Charlotte winning or losing. It would be his own numbers, get less than 6 rebounds, And the reason why he got caught is because the apps themselves keep track of how much money normally gets played on this shit. And so most of the time people aren't betting on Rozier under rebounds. And there was a day when it went way up. It was only like $13,000. It wasn't huge, but it's way more money than is normally done. And so, I mean, I guess to weaponize your question, you'd have to be a big enough of a player to have props available, because I couldn't go on there right now and bet TJD, like that's like, you've got to be a known name to actually have him on the board.
Well, Jonte Porter had over-unders.
That's true.
Right?
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's more people than I would like to admit. And I also think that number is going to go drastically down right now. I think a lot of people are going to be like, it's not worth it for whatever, tens of thousands of dollars that they could have when there's hundreds of thousands of millions of dollars of contracts that are out there. So I think it happens more than we would like, but I think it's going to start to get curbed now that some bigger names are starting to get allegedly, arrested for it.
KP, take us back to collegiate ranks. Don't give me any names. No specific allegations. But what percentage do you think of collegiate programs before names, image, likeness was getting, before NIL was getting paid out, were coloring outside the lines, were doing things that weren't necessarily allowed by the rules?
I'm hesitating.
If this gets you in trouble, then no need to give me a specific. Fine, I'll ask you a different question. Does this story change how you view the NBA at all? Does this impact how you watch basketball?
No, it does not, because I'm watching, specifically on court. I've never been a gambler. I never have bet. Like people say, oh, you live in Las Vegas. Oh, I'm like, but gambling gives me anxiety, even if it's just putting $20 on red on a roulette table. Like I'm like, that's $20 that I could have had. Like I lose my mind. So for me, none of this like makes sense to me. And like even the Jonte Porter stuff, when that first came out, I'm like, what are you doing, dude? Like, was it worth it? No.
Yeah.
But I also understand addiction, and I understand that it roots in a place where maybe this stemmed from something that happened in high school or college, and like gambling is an addiction, and there is like something about it. So I'm not trying to advocate or anything for or do the silver lining thing, but there is something to be said about that. But does it change the way I watch basketball in the NBA? No.
It does for me, and it's precisely because of what you just said, KP. I'm forced to reckon, like, they put DraftKings on the literal fucking court during the game, right? So like, I'm thinking about my kid, like I intend to raise him as a basketball fan and as a Warriors fan. Until last night, or until 2 nights ago, I was very uncomfortable. It was the weirdest I've felt after a win, after an opening night win, emphatically over a team that I was worried about until that point. I mean, there were commercial breaks where literally every single commercial was a different app for sportsbook gambling. Like it's too much. And when you're talking about these addiction things, like luckily I'm not addicted to it. I feel the exact same way with you. Like it makes me really uncomfortable. But there are a lot of people for whom like this could be a tipping point. It's really ugly, and then when you hear on top of it that the league is, sort of turning a blind eye to these sorts of things and allowing it to go unchecked, it's a real problem for me. And I was like I said, I ended that game not feeling good. And that was while I was watching basketball. It's because I'm sort of being hit over the head with it. I think we've reached a point like it took more attention than the game did itself, and that was a problem for me because I can't like pre-record it, skip through commercials, and then watch the game because they're talking about player props in the middle of the game. Like you can have it in the commercials, that's fine. I can mute it, but when it's in the middle of the game, you're ultimately going to lose people, especially when on top of that you feel like the NBA is rigged because the players themselves are messing with the lines.
It's not on fucking accident. So this is my understanding. This is not reporting. One of my understanding is that the NFL is the 5,000-pound gorilla when it comes to sports television. Their ratings they dwarf almost anything else. My second understanding is one of the reasons that is that America loves to bet the NFL. They love to bet the NFL, and so there's more people who are involved and really want to watch. The NBA knows that, and they've been trying to get people to bet the NBA. If I open up my NBA app right now and look at a game before it starts, they have the lines on there. I mean, and just like you said, Max, like they are very actively pushing this out. To my question, does this impact how I watch it? I'm really trying to say no. I really don't want it to, but I'm of the opinion if 2 people get caught, 100 people are doing it. It's like they didn't catch the only people who are fucking doing this. They just happened to catch the people who are doing it really poorly. And as far as how it impact, my wife likes terrible reality TV, Bachelor, things like that. You put anything on television, I'll fucking watch it. But the way I get through it is I make fun of it. Like that's what entertains me. And she'll let me say almost anything when we're watching The Bachelor. She just ignores me. But if I start saying this is bullshit, they've written it. I start saying like, no, this isn't real. These producers said they wanted that person to be together. The second I do that, she asked me to leave because I'm ruining it for her. That's what this is like. I understand there's a difference between player props and like, that no one's being accused of fixing games, but this is a really dangerous thing because if we start to believe that, like this is anything but completely legit, you erode the whole fucking league. They have to be careful with this, which is why like I actually really like Adam Silver. I think he's done a pretty good job. I'm not sure he's the right guy for this. like David Stern, like look how he handled the Donaghy thing. There's a documentary about how he basically saved the NBA by throwing Donaghy under the bus because he got ahead of it. I don't know what's going to happen here, but they should be really careful and come down with a very large hammer. Because they need to convince, like, anything else that's happening, it needs to stop right now. Nothing else can come out, especially after the Kawhi Leonard, like, aspiration shit. They're already dealing with things that are concerning. And I'll end it here, at least as far as my take. I'll tell you who would be the most upset about this. Amazon fucking Prime spent $1.8 billion on an 11-year TV deal. 11-year TV deal. So, like us, people who live and breathe basketball, do we really care about this? Nah, I'm watching tonight. I'll watch They've Got Me. But NBA casuals, people who like, yeah, kind of know, they hear this and you're going to lose all of them. And that's why they paid $1 billion, close to $2 billion. It's not for the hardcore people. It's for the casuals that they get advertising money from. So there's some risk here.
Yeah, but they'll be fine as soon as they launch Prime Bet and have betting on their channels.
It's sponsored by Chauncey Billups and Terry Rozier. Last question. Can they do anything? Is there something that can happen in the next week that would convince you this is solved? Because how do you stop people from gambling with their phone? Like, I don't know what the NBA can do to suddenly make me feel like, okay, this chapter is closed. So I don't have an answer to it, but can you guys think of anything? Is there a punishment? Is there something that can go down?
I mean, ban player props, right?
They'll never do that though. Yeah, they could. Yeah.
I think they can ban the way they integrate them into the broadcast and like the way they talk about them as a league. If he comes out and says, we're not in support of that, we realize it's going to happen regardless of our stance on it, but we're going to take we're going to take the ads out of the middle of the game. You can talk about it before and after, but inside the game, you can't talk about it. And I think he has to drop the hammer on the perception of it, including with Kawhi Leonard, just because there's too many things now where it's just like you're calling it to question the integrity of the game. So, like it's not fair to Ballmer and Kawhi Leonard in some ways because they're catching shrapnel or collateral damage. But I think in order to preserve the logo, you have to come down a little forcefully.
In line of that, I actually just got a text message from Adam Silver who said, really, Bram, you had to do the underdog read right before this fucking segment? Which, my bad, Adam. We didn't pick the way it rolled out.
Hey,
Krysten,
hold up, Bram. Well, sorry, just to point out, shout out to the Patreon folks who didn't hear that underdog read. Just wanted to call out, if you don't want to hear any of the ad reads, just hop up on Patreon. $4 a month gets you an ad-free feed. Just wanted to plug that because
exactly right. Nice
we are one place. You can't pay for cable and then remove ads from the NBA game, but you can pay for the Huddle and remove ads from that Huddle feed.
Nicely played. Let's fucking go. Krysten, take us back to a wholesome place. Let's erase the feeling that this is bringing. Bring me back to Steph's camp. Give me a story. What was that like?
Do you know what? I loved it so much. And it was the first time I had been back probably in 6 or 7 years. And his kids were there. They were running around. His son was getting on the court. I remember at one point when I was like driving up, it was at like a rec center in Atherton. And I was driving up and I thought to myself, I'm like, these kids playing on the playground right now have no idea that their childhood hero is about 200 feet away in this small gym.
Uh-huh.
Right. And I like right before media availability, Cannon, his son, was like, Dad, I want to go to the playground. Let's go to the playground. And Steph is like, we can't go to the playground, son. Like, I'm sorry. Like, we can't do that right now. But it was great. It was great to see Steph and on the court with the players on the girls and boys side. AZ Fudd was there. And then she, of course, went to China with him and they did the camp there. But yeah, it was great. And then you see these players and they're so receptive to Steph and just his what he has to give them and in terms of the game and advice, and they're just soaking it up like a sponge. And I was just at USA Basketball and I talked to one of the top sophomores in the country, Quentin Wilson, and he's like, yeah. I was like, well, what was it like at Steph's camp? And he goes, I was on his team. Like I was getting passes from Steph Curry and I was passing him the ball like that. He said that to me was crazy.
Has he changed at all? So have you been there for 6 years? I mean, I saw it 6 years ago. He had already won one, but that's pre-2022. And does he seem like he's aware of his celebrity anymore 6 years later, or is he still just as approachable?
He's still just as approachable. I will say, like, some of the questions, like there were a couple journalists from Brazil and also from China, and the very first question in the media scrum was like, Steph, when did you know that you were great? And I was like, oh my God. So then I kind of like, I didn't rescue it, but I like chimed in and I was like, okay, this is about 10 years you've been doing camp. You've had guys like Chet Holmgren, Anthony Edwards, the Thompson twins come through. Why is it so important for you to pour back into these kids before they hit the NBA? And like, he looked at me and he's just like, thank you.
Yeah.
He's a chance to talk about the camp. Thank you.
That's badass. Krysten, we missed you.
I know.
Far too much time passes every time. I know people need your takes. They need your opinions on topics. Where should they turn to get more Krysten Peek in their life?
You can follow me on Instagram, Twitter, whatever, at Krysten Peek. And look at the little scroll thing.
That's how we roll. Oh, we're very fancy.
Yeah. For more basketball interviews and, things with Gary. I interviewed Jamal Crawford's son at USA Basketball, and his name's JJ. He's incredible. He's a freshman. And I was just like, do you still play one-on-one with your dad? He goes, yeah, I beat him. He won't post the receipts, but I beat him. And like, he was so then I post the interview and Jamal quote tweets it. And he said, beating me to quote 1 doesn't count as winning.
That's not true. You beat him to 1. They were playing to
not 1-0, not the trolling of 1-0. But yeah, so if you want more fun interviews like that, follow me.
Croatian sailing trips or on Mark Cuban's FaceTime. I mean, a lot of places.
Great.
Yeah, a lot of places. You can find us right here. The one thing I will pimp is our YouTube channel, where both Maxime and Marcus are doing incredible work there. Hop on there, look at it, subscribe, like the whole 9 yards. It really helps us with that in mind. Go Warriors. Hopefully, we'll see you real soon.